Hello everybody and welcome to my first proper video. So what I thought I'd talk about to start with is really the topic that's on everyone's mind at the moment. It's overtaken our lives, it's changed our lives, and that is coronavirus. And what I've been looking into is the links between coronavirus and climate change, and also the links between coronavirus and capitalism as well, because they're all more interlinked together than you would think. So for this video I've done a lot of research, and so I'm just going to be looking down at my notebook where I've got my notes so I can get quotes and stuff right and get facts right. So for this video I thought what better place to start than the start. So I'm going to talk about where viruses come from normally and how humans get new diseases. So there's three main ways that humans get diseases from animals. So first of all, the first reason that humans can get diseases or new viruses is there's a lot of ancient viruses trapped in ice caps, and due to global warming these ice caps are now melting, and as they melt these deadly viruses that have been contained in the ice caps for millions of years are now all of a sudden released. And obviously first of all animals will get these viruses, but then as they mutate and pass on it can enter the human race and affect us. A second reason how humans get new viruses is because with looking for land, cutting down trees, just development, we're always encroaching on habitats and land that we're not used to look for natural resources. And by doing this, by encroaching these new habitats, we're exposing ourselves to new pathogens that we're not used to. And finally, it's from mass food production. So this is what I read about this online. It's a thing they call mega barns, which is just massive places, for instance, where they'll keep all the cows or something, or loads of livestock just kept in one place. And this is basically the perfect breeding ground for new viruses to mutate and emerge. So all of these reasons of how we get viruses are linked to climate change in a way. So the first reason is quite obvious, is the fact that global warming and rising temperatures are the reason that the ice caps are melting and releasing these viruses. But then also the whole thing about the second reason was encroaching on unknown habitats and getting pathogens from there entering the human race. That's because we're looking for more natural resources, because we're running low, because we're just running everything dry, because we're not living sustainably. So that means because we're not living sustainably, we have to encroach on these new environments that we're not used to, and that can be dangerous for us in terms of getting pathogens. And finally, with the mega barns, that is once again because there's such a big population and it's just demand to feed everyone. We need to come up with a more sustainable system that isn't just killing animals, releasing more and more greenhouse gases and just having a negative effect on the planet. More specifically, for COVID-19, it's thought that the virus came from wet markets in China, which is the mass-scale breeding of wild animals. So everyone says bats, but we don't know if it's bats. It's just generally just wild animals being sold on the market. And this has been quoted as the whole wild animal selling scheme has been quoted as a get-rich-quick scheme. So it's just a way for people to kill wild animals. There's a high demand for them, they get more money from it, and that's where we think the viruses originally come from. This pandemic is a product of unrestrained capitalist production and consumption patterns that basically need to stop, otherwise we're going to keep getting more and more pandemics happening because of the just massive consumption, unsustainability of how we're living at the moment. Also, another link between the global pandemic happening and capitalism, something I'm sure we can all agree on, is the fact that this lockdown, especially in the UK, this lockdown should have gone into place a lot sooner. But the reason that the government had trouble deciding whether to put us on lockdown is because we rely so much on money and profit to make the world go round at the moment that they fear that as soon as we go into lockdown, the country's going to go into economic collapse. And that also means that this lockdown is going to get lifted quite prematurely because the government are just so worried about the economy collapsing, because we've become so reliant as a country and a nation to we need profit, we need this to keep going. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about next is about how capitalism creates such a divide in between the rich and the poor. There's really, really rich people, and then there's also a lot of people that are really poor and living in poverty. And coronavirus and all global pandemics hit poorer and most vulnerable people the hardest. Coronavirus has been called a poverty multiplier as it forces families into extreme poverty, because in England, we're lucky that we have the NHS, so we have free healthcare, but in a lot of other countries out there, they don't have free healthcare. So by there being a virus, it causes people that aren't wealthy to spend money on just simple things like healthcare just to like stay alive, and this like drives more families into poverty. So this virus is increasing more poverty because of the way, not in our country as much, but, and also it is in our country too, because so many people are losing their jobs and like aren't getting the money that they should be, so it's causing so much more poverty because of the way life is set up at the moment, that like some people are only just getting enough money to like survive, and because of this pandemic everyone's going to be getting like less money or spending more money on healthcare if you're in other countries. That is going to cause more and more people to be in poverty than before. And also, another fact that I read is that half the world's population doesn't have full coverage for the most basic health services. So that's more than half. So it's more people than you think are affected by like having to pay because of this virus, like just to stay alive. So it really is, it's a very bad system, and it's going to like cause a lot of poverty. A fact I learned that the World Health Organization released is that if we reduce the environmental and social risk factors people are exposed to, nearly a quarter of the global health burden going on at the moment could be prevented. So that means that prior to this, if we focused on things like the environmental risk people have, so like how much climate change is affecting them and also how much people are affected by poverty, if there was anything done to reduce that, then a quarter of the like effect of COVID-19 at the moment could have been prevented if we were just like more prepared and more like environmentally sustainable before this happened. So this should really be a lesson for the future. And also, linked to poverty, we know that areas of poverty are more likely to have greater levels of air pollution, and this, for greater areas of air pollution, the coronavirus health threat is a lot greater in those areas. And a concluding thing I'd like to say is that this pandemic has shown that we can make drastic change to like the way we live. Like, it's not impossible. This virus has shown that we are able to make drastic changes and change the way we live. So why aren't we doing the same for climate change? In the long term, in the short term, COVID-19 is killing a lot more people, but it's the only reason people are taking it so seriously because it's easy. You see, it's a virus, you catch the virus, you die. Stay inside, stop spreading the virus, easy peasy. But the thing is with climate change is also a global pandemic, and in the long term it's going to kill so many more people. So after this lockdown is over and after coronavirus is over, it is not an option to go back to normal, because our normal was a crisis. Our normal way of living was a global pandemic as it is. People are dying because of climate change, already more than they've died from coronavirus, and it's going to keep going up. In the long term, so many more people are going to die because of the climate change crisis than they are because of COVID-19. So we've shown now that we are able to change our ways. We're able to band together to defeat this. So why aren't we doing the same for climate change? We can do this, and we need to make a change. There's no option to not act on this. People don't take climate change seriously. We don't get daily updates and death tolls for people that are dying from climate change, yet we do for coronavirus. And that's mainly because it's easy for people to understand and because it's happening in such a quick amount of time. But we all need to understand and educate ourselves that climate change is actually a bigger issue than this. And also, if we sort out issues like climate change and sustainability, then it will mean that in the future, first of all, we're less likely to get viruses like this in the future. And secondly, if we do anything else like this, we'll be so much better at coping with it and we'll be so much better off. So basically, climate change needs to be our priority. Once this is over, we cannot go back to normal. We need to focus on stopping climate change and making it so that if another virus comes out, another pandemic happens, we're better at coping with it and we know what we're doing. Okay guys, so that's basically all I've got to say today. It's quite a short video, but that's because I feel like I've got a lot to say, but I'm not used to talking to the camera yet, so I don't know how well my points came across, but I'm going to keep practicing and getting better. And obviously climate change is such a massive topic and there's like so much to talk about, so obviously I'm not going to cover everything or explain everything in one video, but over time I'm going to cover more and more topics, because I've said in this video we need to do something about climate change, so I'm definitely going to focus on making videos soon about how to do something about climate change. There's going to be a lot of that to come. And also I'd really like people to ask questions or even say their opinions on what they think. I'm not trying to like, especially talking about the capitalism stuff, it's just an opinion I have that capitalism isn't a good system, and everything I've said have been like quotes and facts I found online from like reputable sources. So it is a bit of opinion, but then I've also got facts to just back up my point of view. But I'm not trying to cause beef or anything, you know. I don't want to like fight anyone. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you tune in for my next video where I'll talk more about climate change. And if you want to see that, then subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Yeah, thank you.